Hi. If you find this content useful, please support my channel on Patreon. Become a member of the family and get yourself the offered rewards. You find the link in the description. I always enjoyed hearing other people's opinion why they use DAW X, Y or Z. These are my top 10 reasons why I chose FL Studio and why, no matter how often I tried to escape because I had something to complain about it, I always came back to it. It's often mentioned, but I am not sure whether many people really realize what impact this feature has. I bought FL Studio in 2007, which was version 7 at this time, and it cost me €189. I upgraded later to the Signature bundle, which brought me Citrus, Maximus, Pitcher and Newtone for another €100. €289 as final costs, besides some plugins and flex packs, which would have been with additional costs at other companies as well. €289 in 14 years for always staying up to date. If I would have done the same with Cubase, which already cost the double right from the start, Cubase got an upgrade with costs every year about €75. I would have paid €1,050 in the same time, just for the updates. Plus about €300 more with the higher first price. €1,350 more in total. With Studio One, this whole time would have cost me €800 more. Ableton, if I take the normal version, not the suite, would have been €1,200 more. And if Bitwig would have already existed at this time with their annual update fee, believe it or not, €2,300 more for staying up to date. So I would say lifetime free upgrades is definitely worth mentioning as a top reason for using FL Studio. It's really hard to specify exactly what really caused the difference to the editors in other DAWs. For me, I think it's a mixture of the looks, how editing feels, and the advanced features which are mostly unique to FL Studio. Left-click inserts, right-click deletes a note is a nice logical continuation from the step sequencer. Inserting notes, remember always the last touch note, which for example helps a lot for creating chords. If this behavior is not wished, holding Shift while left-clicking inserts a note according to your snap settings. With the modifier keys, there's nearly no need to ever switch tools. Alt-GR and left-click for muting, right-shift-left or right-drag for slicing, Control-left-click or drag for selecting, Control-right-drag for zooming, and Alt-right-click for preview. Stamp modes, Arpeggiator, Quantize, and Chopper, always user-definable patterns, showing all changes in real time, are simply amazing. Note properties combined with note colors and slide notes are modulation heaven directly built in the editor. I never encountered any other piano roll editor which came close. I cannot imagine working without Patcher anymore. It puts the functionality of instruments in the channel rack or directly in the playlist, as well as the functionality of the mixer on steroids. No matter if you want to save complete signal chains with instruments or just effects, if you need complex routings on single tracks, create your own layered instruments or effects, or just need some macro controls for plugins which don't offer any. Patcher is the solution. Speaking about plugins in general, I can only say the plugins available in FL Studio are outstanding in terms of choice, handling and quality. For me, most of the available plugins are simply top-notch. After the recent updates, PQ2 and Maximus are completely on par with many paid plugins. The new frequency splitter is perhaps the best on the market, just like Slicex
or codecs
and Edison. Flex brought a lot of production-ready sounds into the game. In general, I can hardly tell of any available plugin which I would need to replace with a VST. I cannot live without this genius little sampler in FL Studio. I absolutely love how easy they are on my computer's resources. I can load hundreds of EQs without raising the RAM usage at all. Running 50 instances of reverbs is hardly noticeable on my CPU. They all load in a blink of an eye. There's absolutely no delay when opening the GUI. They are feeling solid and snappy, and are a pleasure to work with. At the latest, after version 12 brought us the new mixer, I became addicted to it. Yes, it could have a few more channels, but I love its layout and features. Each channel with a simple EQ and stereo tools directly integrated without having to load any plugin at all. I really like having fixed plugin slots, where I can choose to load my plugin on slot 3 even if it's the only plugin on that channel. I can later put on other plugins before it without having to change any order. The routing system, especially with the native integration of Patcher, for example making a send to an instrument channel which use a special reverb already. No problem. Try doing this with a standard DAW. Everything can be routed to everything, and every track can be anything. The different layouts, which allow me either to work detailed or to work with 50-60 channels visible without scrolling and without any restrictions. All controls always visible even on a 1080p system. The native integration inside of FL Studio is simply exemplary. Drag and drop everything to everywhere. The right-click options in the browser. No matter what you're trying to do, you are free to do so. Previewing directly in the browser without touching the mouse. Each press on the right arrow re-triggers the sound. Arrow up or down selects the previous or next. Replacing samples on the fly in the selected plugin to check them in context. The available controller plugins are simply awesome. The envelope controller, keyboard controller, control surface, formula, peak or XYZ controller can modulate everything in the whole program in any kind you like. And the modulation can be scaled in any possible mathematically way for each target individually. No restrictions to where the modulation goes, no matter how many targets. And maximum flexibility. FL Studio offered always the most flexible systems first. Same for automation or MIDI. A single source could always be used for as many targets as you like. This was of course always a matter of taste, but no matter how many people have made fun of the color scheme of FL Studio, every DAW on this planet copied it by now. I always loved these dark gray colors. I love how fast FL Studio starts and reacts. It's easy on the eyes and doesn't let me wait for being creative. Same goes for the plugin picker and how it's implemented. It is context sensitive and offers still some unique way of working. All attempts of competitors to copy it have failed completely in my opinion. It's just a small feature, but it makes a huge difference for me. And yet, it is so simple. Offering user-definable choices, which can be applied context-sensitive with a simple shortcut or shift left-click, no matter if it's a clip, a track, a mixer channel or plugin. Where it makes sense, it's available in the right way. Perfect. Even if I already mentioned the brilliant choice of plugins available in FL Studio, as with Patcher, Edison is worth a separate mention. To my knowledge, there is not a single DAW out there offering a such complete editing solution for audio files out of the box. Instead of putting some basic functionality half-baked into the playlist or the audio files options themselves, offering a complete audio editor was one of the most clever ideas ImageLine ever had. Just working with it as a usual audio editor works already very well. But because of being a plugin, Edison extended recording capabilities widely. No matter if you like to record externally or capturing audio on a single channel from anywhere in the signal chain, makes it a very flexible addition. It's hard here to decide where to start and where to end, as there are so many of them. One of the most important for me was always dump score to pattern. FL Studio is constantly recording all MIDI input in the background, without forcing you to press the record button before. Meanwhile, nearly all DAWs implemented this so-called retrospective recording, but I am not sure if FL Studio was even the first. So many times I spit out ideas by just browsing presets and jingling around on my keyboard. As a not trained keyboard player, I would have had hard times playing it the same way again for recording. A simple command saves me all that headache. The next point is again as simple as it is powerful. To have the ability to decide if a sample in the playlist shall be loaded into RAM or streamed from hard disk. Even with nowadays powerful hard disks, they will be always the bottlenecks in terms of transmission rate, and I do not always trust the operation system to take care of caching all this data properly. Because of that, I'm very happy to have the choice whether I prefer the one or the other. Many DAWs do not let you choose and force you to put audio files into sampler plugins to have them being loaded into RAM, so it's not a given. I love as well the auto-dump feature of SliceX, or the export options of Edison, Newtone or Newtime per drag and drop. The auto-dump feature of FPC's MIDI drum loop selector is done very nicely too, as they are simple MIDI files and are mapped in the general MIDI standard. You can extend this library with any general MIDI compatible files. I love as well the picker panel as warehouse of all kind of material without having the need to actually use it in the playlist already. Even if I delete clips in the playlist, they are not lost. No need to place them elsewhere in the arranger or to mute them to get rid of them for the moment, like you need to do in other DAWs. They are saved in the picker panel as long as you like, ready to be modified or used in other places without any hassle. Very cool. If the list gets too complex, entries can be grouped to stay organized. I could probably continue all day long with this list, and I'm sure I forgot some important points, but let's stop this here. This was a little journey into my top reasons why I use FL Studio. Perhaps you can agree with one or the other point and enjoyed watching this little tour. See you soon, and thank you for watching.